everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I am Bryn. I'm with OnTheClock, and joining me today, my co-host is Sam. And we are going to be going over a little bit of some tips and tricks on managing your employees' accounts. So while we wait just for about a moment while people still kind of are coming in and joining, please feel free to use our little chat section we have. You should see that off to the side of your screen. Let us know, where you're joining in from. We are located in Michigan, so feel free to drop the, city or the state that you guys are at. And we also have a poll for you as well, so if you want to go ahead and fill that out, it's just asking you where you guys heard about today's webinar, so whether that would be on our website with the banner, or maybe you saw it on a social media post. Okay, we have a Vancouver, and a Utah, and a Kansas City. All right, well, welcome, you guys. We're so excited to have you guys here.
Boston, and a Tennessee. Welcome.
All right, so it is 2 o'clock, so we're going to go ahead and get started. So again, for anyone who happened to be joining a little bit late, again, my name is Bryn. We're going to be going over employee managing their accounts and just some tips and tricks. And again, joining me today is Sam. Sam's going to be covering the chat section that we have. So if you have any questions throughout, please feel free to put them in the chat section, and she'll be more than happy to answer those questions for you, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get started. So we're just going to do just a brief little presentation here. So it's just some slides again, what we're going to be covering, and I'm going to show you how to do it. So again, tips and tricks managing your employee accounts. Something that we're going to talk about is how to turn on employee punch notes. So this is going to be how to allow employees to leave notes on their time cards when they are punching. We can also, when they do leave punch notes, these employees can view the notes, as well as any admins or managers. They can view them as well on the time cards. So they can leave notes about their day and maybe some projects they have going on. And then with these punch notes as well, you can also opt into email alerts if you would like. So again, I've got some images here, what that would look like. On the left-hand side, we've got an image of what the employee view would look like. Up top, that's just an image from our time card screen. And then on the right side, we have an image from a email. So again, what that alert would look like. And then we also have global and personal messages for the employee punch page. So we're going to cover on both of these today as well. So a global message is really useful if you happen to have some type of message that you need to, convey to all of your employees that you want to let them know something, maybe some company news is going on. It's just a really great way to put that note in and then, hit save, and that's going to be viewable to everyone. And on top of that, we also allow for a personalization or personalized message. So you can go ahead and maybe do something unique, like happy birthday if you wanted to. So again, it's something that you can do individually as well. And then we also are going to talk about the employee punch restrictions with locations and security. So we're going to be going over the different types of devices that employees can use, how you can lock them down to certain things. Maybe they're using their phone, a tablet, or a computer, as well as maybe a fingerprint reader. Again, you can lock them down to specific locations if they are using a phone, for example. And then if they are using a phone, you can also set up things such as GPS tracking. And if it's a computer, maybe you want to turn on IP authorization as well. So again, this is just some way that you can go in to the employee profiles and lock them down to certain things, just for the company's protection, to make sure employees aren't punching on a device they're not supposed to be. And then we're also going to talk about setting up punch time restrictions. So you can set up a punch time that you don't want them to punch in any time before. So for example, if your employees are supposed to be coming in at 9 o'clock, maybe you want to put in a punch time restriction of 8:45 a.m. So if maybe they come in at 8:40 and they try to punch, we won't allow them to punch until then. So I do have a couple examples. Left would be on the app screen what they would see, and then on the right hand side is an example of what they would see on the website if they did try to punch in too early. And then we're also going to talk about how to set up employee pay rates in their profiles. So this is a great tool if you're looking to set up like a gross pay. If you want to see how much the employees have accumulated from their hours worked, you just pop in that hourly rate that they would make, and then at the time cards page is actually just going to automatically calculate that for you. So we're going to cover how to set that up today as well. And we're also going to talk about employee groups. So a good thing with employee groups is if you do happen to have a lot of employees in your account that you are managing, and there's a lot of settings that you are setting up, and it can be very tedious, we do allow you to set up employee groups that you want those settings to basically blanket over. So just set up the group to the way that you would like it, and then you can add and assign that employee to that specific group, and then you're all set. We're also going to talk about employee time card approval, so how you would go about setting this up. This is really handy if you are an admin or manager and maybe your responsibility is at the end of the week to review the employee's time card. It's a really great tool to be able to come into the time cards or pull that PDF report we have and see that the employee has approved or signed off on their time cards saying that those hours are correct and they're accurate, and they can be ready to process and submit for payroll processing. So we'll go ahead and show you how to set that up as well. And just some other general topics that we're going to be covering today. The overtime and auto deduct, if you wanted to set those up in the employee profile as well. And then we're also going to briefly talk about the fixed schedule. So maybe you wanted to set up an automated schedule for your employees to follow. This is really handy if maybe you have employees who are forgetful and they don't always remember to punch in and punch out. You can set up this fixed schedule, and then it's actually going to send out a reminder. So we'll go ahead and we'll cover that as well. And then just another little couple tips that we have here that we're going to cover today too is employees with manager accounts or maybe even admin accounts. If they do happen to have a employee who needs to be punching in, then you can actually set up the accounts to be like username and password, for example, and then they can actually punch in while again simultaneously being logged into one account. So there's no need to log into the employee account, punch in, log out, and then log into an admin. So again, we're going to cover how to basically log into both at the same time. The other thing we're going to cover is how to delete or restore employees. And then last but not least, we're going to talk about how to allow employees to edit their time cards if you did decide to give those employees that type of privilege. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen for you. So I'm going to walk you through my account, again, kind of how to set these things up. So please, you're more than welcome to log into your account and follow along with me with any of these that seem to kind of spark your interest that you think you want to set up in your account. Sam should be putting in the chat section now, or a little blurb should be coming up for you to go ahead and click on that link, and it should allow you to easily log in if you're not already logged into your account. So you guys should be looking here at the login page. So I'm going to go ahead and log into my admin account. So again, here I am at my admin account, and let's just go ahead and let's get started with the employee time card approval. So to go ahead and set that up, we're going to actually navigate over to our settings gear icon right up here. So if you click on this on the drop down menu, you're actually just going to go ahead and click on the second option, which is time clock settings. And then here in this page on time clock settings, we have on the right side, we have options. So on options, we have employee time card approval. If you do happen to notice right now that it's set to off, go ahead and click on this drop down, this box for a drop down menu, and just go ahead and choose on. And then we also have under that section, we have employee time card message approval message. So if you want to go ahead and fill out your own customized message, you can most certainly do so. I've written in here, I agree that the time card information is correct. So if you want to add additional info, again, something a little bit more tailored or specialized towards your business, feel free to do that. And then below that right here, we have require employee to type an approval response. So you can also turn that on if you would like them to maybe initial and sign off that their time cards are accurate. So something else that I do want to go ahead and cover, once you've made any updates, please do remember to press Save Settings here down at the bottom. And we're going to navigate now over to our employee punch site icon right up here. So in this tab, you can see on the bottom right side, we have a global message. So on this global message, you can see I've got some start and through dates, and then I have my message here as well. So my message of, hi team, office remodel is starting at 7 p.m. Friday, September 17th, and will be completed Sunday, September 20th. Please remember to bring home your personal belongings that week. So go ahead, if you have something that you would like to share company newswide, you can put a start and through date. You don't necessarily have to put an end date if you don't want it to end. And if you do happen to forget any of those rules as far as setting that up, this little question mark icon we have here, go ahead, hover over it or click on it. It's going to give you all the information you need to know about setting this up. All right, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to look at a employee profile now. So I'm going to go ahead and click on my employee icon up here at the top, and I'm just going to choose test employee on my drop-down menu. So we are now currently looking at my test employee profile. So here in my test employee profile, I can see that I have their information filled out. And again, if my test employee happened to be a employee that was also a admin or a manager, I'm going to want this email right here to match. So I have a username at the moment, so that wouldn't necessarily be the perfect option for what I would need for the situation. I'm actually going to pull up my Bryn H employee. In my Bryn H employee account, I can see here I've got my email address listed. And if, again, as my Bryn H employee, I'm also an admin, but I also need to be able to punch. So if I wanted to punch in for the day, I already logged into my admin account, all I need to do is simply navigate up here to the top right corner, and I can see on this drop-down menu I have clock in and clock out. So if I am using the website, the only component that I need to match between the employee profile and the admin profile is this email address. The system will recognize that it's the same account, and then you can use this little hack right here. And if you are using our mobile app, for example, then what you're going to want to do to be able to log into both simultaneously is you're going to want the email address and the password to be the exact same. So those are going to need to match exactly to be able to log into them at the exact same time. So I'm going to go ahead and navigate over back to my employee profile here for test employee. And then I also see here under, let me go ahead and change my settings here so it's not grayed out for you. There we go. So I can see here under additional options, I have manual time entry and adjustment. It's currently set to off. So again, all of your employees' profiles, they are going to be set to off automatically. We're never going to allow an employee to have this turned on. If you did want to give an employee the privilege to manually edit any of their own time cards, come in here to their profile, click on this box. On that drop-down menu, you'll see that we have an on option. Go ahead and turn that to on, and it's just going to update it like that for them. So again, they'll be able to go in, they can make any edits or adjustments to their time cards, they can add time cards if needed, and any changes they do happen to make will be actually logged for you in our audit log trail. So if you do need to reference any changes they made, you can do that too. And then another thing I do want to point out is maybe you have employees who you don't want to necessarily allow them to clock in and clock out with anything other than maybe a fingerprint reader. If you happen to fall into that category, this allow clock in and clock out, you can go ahead and turn this to off. This is going to disable clocking in and clocking out on all the devices with the exception of that fingerprint reader. I also want to point out our overtime and break section right here. So we have overtime after. So overtime after, again, just simply click on this. And on the drop-down menu, we have a couple different options that you can choose from. So just want to come in and you'll choose the rule that applies to you. So I'll just go ahead and choose 40 hours per week. And I'm going to get this little pop-up telling me that changing the setting will be retroactive and it's going to affect all of my time card calculations. So again, adding, removing this calculated overtime rule and break, it's going to be retroactive. So it's going to affect all of those previous time cards. So if you're not quite ready for this to affect those previous time cards, I would recommend going into your time cards and archiving them. And then once you've archived, you can come in here and make this adjustment. But if you are ready to do so, go ahead and say yes. And then same thing with auto deduct break. Maybe you have employees who are forgetful and they sometimes forget to punch out for lunch, or you want to make it really easy for them just to punch in for the day and then punch out, and just want to go ahead and automatically deduct that break. Right here, go ahead and click in this box, and we're going to change it from off to after X amount of hours. So maybe I want to say after 4 hours my employee has worked. I'm going to go ahead and say yes, I want that to retroactively affect that. And the break duration. So we do offer break durations in 15-minute increments. So maybe I take, my employee takes a 30-minute break. So what's going to happen is I'm going to say after 4 hours my employee works, I want 30 minutes to be deducted from their time card. So again, with this setup, you do not need to have your employees punching in and out for their breaks. And then something else I do want to go ahead and call out with our additional features here. We have a do not allow punching in before. So in this box, you might notice this in your account is blank if you haven't already filled it out. So again, this was that example I used earlier. Maybe you have employees who are punching in at 9 a.m., but maybe they get to work early and they maybe try to punch in a couple minutes early. You could put in a specified time that you don't want them punching in too soon before, again, stopping them from getting too many extra hours each week, and maybe stopping them from going into overtime too much each week as well. So that's just kind of a brief overview of the employee profile on this general page. We're going to go ahead and hop into our PTO settings tab that we have right here now. So on PTO settings, we have 4 different types. We have vacation, holiday, sick, and personal. So on these 4 different types, you can come in here, click that you want to go ahead and turn this on. So maybe I allow my employee to get vacation time off. So we do offer 5 different category options. We allow an allotment and then accrual rules. So the different types we offer is to allot X amount per year, accrue X hours per regular hour worked, accrue X% of regular hours worked, accrue X hours per pay period, and accrue X hours per every hour worked. So just want to come in here, choose whichever rule is going to be best fitting your needs. So I chose allotment, for example. It's going to ask me to choose an allotment amount. So maybe I allot 120 hours per year. And then I'm going to enter my start on and the stopping on accruing date. So typically do 1 year at a time for this. We also offer a previous balance and a max hours per year as well. So if you do happen to need these sections, you can do that. And in this previous balance, you can actually enter a negative amount if needed. And then if we change this maybe to a accrue instead of an allotment, it's going to be very similar. Instead of this box right here of putting 120, maybe we're going to actually put an accrual rate. So you're just going to put in a percentage. So maybe it's like I accrue for every hour worked, I accrue 0.01 hours. So then I would go ahead, enter my start and stop accruing on, and then it's going to calculate this rate for me for every hour that I've worked. So again, if you do want more information, I'm not going to cover this in too much detail. We do have a previous webinar that you can actually reference if you would like. So I'm going to go ahead and move on to our location and security settings now. So here's the spot that maybe if you're interested in locking employees down to a specific device. So we're going to go ahead and pay attention to this now. So we have right here, top left, we have mobile rule and GPS. So we have enable mobile punch. So if you do happen to have employees who are using a mobile device like a cell phone or maybe they're using a tablet, you're going to go ahead and turn this on. If you don't want them using a phone for punching, go ahead and make sure that this has been turned to that little red slider right there. So again, this is going to disable all that mobile punching option for them. If you did happen to want to turn it on, we see right here we have mobile rule. So if we click on this box, we're going to see we have a drop-down menu to choose from. So we have a couple options. We have do not record GPS coordinates. So if they are punching with a mobile device and you aren't necessarily interested in recording that, go ahead and choose that option. We also have a record GPS coordinates. So this would be an optional setting. So if the employee does happen to allow their coordinates to be recorded, this would go ahead and log that information for you. And then our third option here is record GPS and require GPS to punch. So with this third option right here, it's really handy if you are trying to for sure get that location of where they are punching in and out. If you are restricting them to a specific area for punching, you're going to want to make sure that you have this at least set up, the security level set up. And then we also have record GPS, warn if not at GPS punch location. And then we also have a disable. So the difference between both of these is warn is if the employee is outside of that allowed punching perimeter, a warning is going to display to them telling them that they are not in the approved punching perimeter and they will need to get to one. If they want to proceed, they can do so. Otherwise, an alert will be sent out to the admin or manager alerting them that the employee did punch outside of that approved area. And then that last option we have here is our tightest, strongest permission level, which is disable. So if you did happen to select this one, this is going to ensure that the employee is at the approved punch location and they won't be able to punch anywhere else but the area that you've specified. And then we also have right here, we have app GPS tracking. So if you happen to have an employee who is moving throughout the day and you want to be able to track their whereabouts, go ahead and turn this on. This permission is a permission level that does need to be accepted by the employee on their phone, for example. So they will have to accept the app tracking for security reasons. If this is something that you are going to require them to turn on, just let them know that they do need to allow the app tracking. With the app tracking, there are going to be breadcrumbs that are dropped every 200 meters of movement, and you can actually look at those breadcrumbs and see their path of travel throughout the day as well. Next, we have IP authorization. So if you wanted to go ahead and maybe lock an employee down to a specific IP address, you can go ahead and do so here. So we have a couple different enforcement level types. We have, again, similar settings as before. We have warn as well as lockout employee. So again, if the IP address that I list right here, if the employee is punching on an IP address that is different than the one listed, they will get a warning, and lockout would then, again, it would disable them from being able to punch. And if you do happen to have a employee who is maybe punching on a couple different types of IP addresses, maybe they travel between work locations, and again, you want to use this IP enforcement type, right here we have IP. If you click on this, we have a couple different options. So if you wanted to actually change them to a multiple IP range, go ahead and choose multi-IP range, and then you're going to see this update, and then you can go ahead and add multiple IP addresses to this employee's account. And again, if they're using any of these IP addresses that you enter, it's going to allow them to punch. The next thing that I want to cover is device and browser authorization. So maybe you are looking to lock employees down to a specific device. And what's really handy about this is this shows you an entire history log of the employee and the device that they have used. So you can see their most recently used all the way down to the ones that they haven't used most recently. And then we'll also have this little column right here where it says allow punching. So I can see right here, web browser, my IP address is listed in Chrome. So I can look at this and I can identify that that is the correct IP address. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this on to allow punching. So I've allowed punching on this computer, and I can also see here that this Android device is listed, and this is my phone, and I don't want to allow punching on that, for example. So I can go ahead and make sure that this is turned to red as well. And if you also have anything else that comes up, you should see these update as well. Any different IP addresses, maybe again, I notice that this is another approved IP address, I can go ahead and enable that for allowed punching too. Another thing I do want to cover really briefly is our fingerprint. So maybe you're looking for a little bit more of a secure punching option. So we do have our fingerprint reading option. So the reader that we are compatible with is the URU 4500 digital persona. There is an additional 50 cent per employee charge associated with this, but again, the employee would come in, they'd walk up to the punch station, and they put their finger on the reader, it would recognize their fingerprint, and then it would just automatically pull up the punch screen for them to go ahead and punch in for the day. So this gives you a little bit more security if you're looking to do that. And then also has a number of fingerprints on file. So if you do happen to go this route, we do always recommend having one fingerprint from each hand. And then last but not least, we do have desktop GPS rules. So you can go ahead and record that punch location. Go ahead and just turn that on. Something to be mindful of though is if you do have a computer that is compatible with this, the range that it's going to give you is not always going to be as accurate as maybe that of a mobile device. So it's still going to give you a good idea of where they were punching, but it's not going to be able to pinpoint necessarily all the time. So that covers our location and security settings in the employee profile. Let's go ahead and take a quick look at our alerts and messaging. So we have here in alerts and messaging, we have SMS message alerts. So if maybe you have an employee who is chronically running late, or they always punch in too late, and you want to get reminded of the times that they are punching, just so you can kind of help monitor their activity. If you wanted to come in here and select maybe an admin or a manager that you wanted to have them supervise, go ahead and choose that. And then it's going to have you select the punch in and punch out. So whether maybe you want to get the notification when the employee punches in, or again, if you want the notification when the employee punches out, just go ahead and make sure those are turned on, and then you'll be all set. If you do happen to have someone who isn't listed in the system as an admin or manager, but maybe you do want them to still get the notifications, we do have an option for an additional phone number field here as well. And then we also have here on the bottom left, we have punch messages. So this is where you can set up to allow employees to be able to leave time card or punch notes on their time cards. So we have two different options for you to choose from. We have allow and then allow an email manager. So if you were interested in getting a email notification every single time that an employee did happen to leave a message on their punch cards, go ahead and select this bottom option right here. And then we do have right here message to employee. Again, this is just like that global message option that we talked about, but this is that more personalized one. So maybe if I wanted to put happy birthday in here and then go ahead and select those date ranges that I want that message to display to the employee, I can most certainly do that right here in this section. So we're going to go ahead and look at our pay rates tab here. So on our pay rates tab, if you did again want to set up that option on the time cards page to be able to have the system automatically calculate the gross pay for the employee each pay period, then go ahead and enter their hourly rates. Again, the different options we have would be regular, overtime, double time, triple time, and then our 4 different PTO category options. So after you've done all these and you've made all these edits and changes, again, please be sure to press that save settings, or if you wanted to go through each employee one by one and make any updates, hit the save and preview or save and next that we have right here. All right, so if you did happen to maybe in our location and security section, maybe you chose our options right here that you wanted to lock employees down to a specific location. Something that you are going to want to do is after you've added that rule, we're going to want to go into settings and then choose locations on the drop-down menu. So we're going to go ahead and add a location. So we have a new location button right here. Click on this new location. And it's going to ask you to go ahead and name that location and then go ahead and turn this little red toggle to green to create that mobile GPS punch. So we can go ahead and we can use our drop pin to move this wherever we would like on the map. Otherwise, we do have up here a search bar that you can type in the address. And you can add up to as many different locations as you would like. There is no limit. Just something that you should be mindful of is every single location that you do add here as a allowed punching area will be an allowed punching area for all of your employees listed in the account. So for example, if maybe I opened up this one, I can see if I scroll down a little bit, I have my location selected, I have my drop pin, and I have my radius set up. So I have at the moment near 100 meters, and you can go up as far as 10,000 meters if you would like. So on this 10,000 meters, if we go ahead and we zoom out a little bit, we can see a much more larger area. So again, maybe this is just too big for me. I want to pinpoint my employees, again, making sure that they're not too far away from that punch location. I can choose near, and then it makes that area much smaller, again, making it a much tighter area for that employee to be able to punch. So once you've added your address in, make sure you press save, and that's going to go ahead and save that location to your profile. And then your employees are all set to start punching at those different areas. All right, so over those security sections that we did kind of cover, and then going with this location here, we want to know if you haven't already filled it out, there should be a poll right now, what thing that you think is the most helpful to you, whether it be the IP authorization, the mobile punching, or the fingerprint reader. Feel free to fill that out and let us know what you think is the best option for you. So something else I do want to go ahead and dive into under settings, we have employee groups. So this again would be really handy if you happen to have a lot of employees who are having very similar different settings, but you want to go ahead and just set those settings up at once and then assign those employees to that group. So for example, if I went into my PTO executive group type, I could come in here. It's going to look very similar to that employee profile. I'm going to set up all of the settings that I would want throughout all of these different tabs here. Once I'm satisfied with what I've put in here, we can simply assign the employees by going to our employee icon and then go ahead and choose an employee on that drop-down list. And then under our general tab right here, we have at the very bottom, we have employee group. So if you don't happen to have one already set up, you can go ahead and choose one from the drop-down menu here. So maybe I'm going to add this employee to hourly, and then I can go ahead and hit save and next. And then what's going to happen is it's going to add that employee to that employee group settings, and I'm all set with that. And then again, example with my other employee right here, they're not set. Maybe I want to put them into PTO entry. I'm going to go ahead and say yes. And then we're done. So something really handy to know about this, so after you've added them, you might notice that you see these fields gray out. There's no need to freak out with that. What this is just basically indicating to you is that these fields right here are just basically the blanketed over settings that were from that employee group. If, for example, maybe this employee for my test employee, that employee group did not have the option to allow manual time entry and adjustment, but maybe I do want to go ahead and give this employee the privilege to do so, I have this little toggle button right here. So I'm going to go ahead and customize the section by clicking on it. I'm going to go ahead and say, yes, I want to allow custom settings. And then we're going to see this field is now no longer grayed out. So I can come in here and I can make those specialized edits to this account, turn it to on, and then go ahead and press save. So really great way if you do happen to have a lot of employees that you are trying to get through, set up all their settings, and then if you do have to make a couple changes here and there for those employees, it's a really good option to be able to do that. I'm going to go ahead and cover our fixed schedule now. So maybe for your employees, you want to be able to set up the punch reminders for them, reminding them when to punch in for work, maybe reminding them when they need to go on their lunch break. So you can go ahead and click on this add schedule button right here. I already have one created, so I'm going to go ahead and click on this one. And you can edit any of these schedules at any time. So first option I have is for name and breaks, so schedule name. Go ahead and choose that schedule name. And it's going to ask you how many breaks that you want to go ahead and set up for. So I only want to do for one break at the moment, so I'm going to choose one. And it's going to have a day start, a break one, and a day end option. So go ahead, enter those tentative times that you want those employees to be punching. If you do still want the employee punching at these specified times, go ahead and make sure manual is checked off. Otherwise, if you want the employee auto punch at these times, we can do an auto as well. And then we also have an option for break. We have a paid, so you can do paid no, paid yes, or paid some. If you did happen to pay out their break, it's going to pay this entire time. Maybe you're only paying for part of the break, so we can do some. And on some, it's going to ask you for how many hours you want to pay for. So this is a 30-minute break. Maybe I just want to pay for 15. So I can go ahead, enter 0.25, and then it's going to go ahead and update this for me. Something to also note, we won't have a auto punch in for the employee at the beginning of the day. That's just for the employer safety. So the employee does have to punch in at the very beginning to be able to start this fixed schedule to start. And then we have down here in step 3, it's going to ask you how many employees you want to assign to this. So you can do all in new existing employees, or you can do only some employees. If you do happen to choose only some, it's going to ask you for those employees for some, which ones you do want to go ahead and apply this to. And again, we do have that punch reminder option for you to go ahead and enable. If you did go ahead and maybe enable the punch reminder for this employee, something to note as well with that is there is a $2 flat rate per month that you would have associated with the SMS messaging, and then a penny for each text message that is sent for that reminder. So not a whole lot, it's not going to break the bank, but it is a really helpful tool if you do need it. Otherwise, if maybe you were interested in having the SMS messaging go out, just don't enter a employee phone number, make sure there is just email on file, and then they can get sent an email if you would like to go that route instead. And then I'm just going to go ahead and show you the time cards here, just kind of giving a little quick wrap up of everything we've discussed and some of those settings and what they would look like on the time cards page. So again, I went to my time cards icon, and I can see here in my options box I have show, so I'm going to go ahead and check off punches, and I'm also going to go ahead and check off payroll. So what I've basically done is I've expanded my time cards field to just show me a little bit more information. So I can see when I did show punches, I can see all of those in and out times my employees punched. I can see the punch in notes that the employees happen to leave me. So if I wanted to go ahead and review those, I can see punch in as well as punch out notes. And then I can also tell with those punch notes, they are indicated with a little icon right here. So if I didn't actually happen to have maybe my punches checked, I could just go ahead and simply hover over those little icons, and it's just gonna go ahead and tell me what their punch note was that they left me. And then also with that employee time card approval, to see again on the time cards page what that would look like when they did approve the time card, I can see here that this employee approved their time card, and it says they approved it on 9/10 at 11:15 a.m. And I have their text initials as well that they left me. And then with that payroll checked off, I can see right here they gave me an extra pay subtotal row, so I can see what my employee's gross pay was with the amount of hours that have been tracked so far to this point. So again, if you wanted to pull the information back up, go ahead and click on that Show Punches. And then we did talk a little bit earlier about archiving those time cards. So if you did happen to make any of those edits or changes into the employee's profile regarding you wanted to set them up for an automatic deduct break, or you wanted to go ahead and set an overtime rule to archive your previous time cards, we have our archive button right here. Just go ahead, simply click on this archive button. It's going to go ahead and archive those, the pay period that you're currently on, and then you would actually be able to see those archived pay periods right here. So again, this is basically going to seal this record so no changes can be made to it. And then once you've archived and you're happy, go ahead and go into the employee profile and make those changes as necessary, and you don't have to worry about any information being disrupted. And then last but not least here, I do want to go ahead and show you how to restore as well as delete an employee. So we're going to look at our employees page. So again, I just simply went to my employee icon right here, and I chose View Full Employee List. So I can see here on my employee list, I have my 3 employees. On the right hand side, I have a edit pencil, a little time card, and then I have a little red X. So if I wanted to delete an employee, I'm going to go ahead and click on this red X. It's going to ask me to go ahead and confirm deleting. I also have this checkbox right here where it says delete future PTO entries and time cards. So all this means is maybe, for example, my employee, they left the company in the month of September, and maybe at the very beginning of the year, I did a bulk ad of holiday PTO. So coming up, maybe I gave them Thanksgiving and Christmas off as a holiday. With this checked, this is going to remove those PTO entries that I added from the time cards. So I'm going to go ahead and click delete. And then I can see that my employee list has now updated. So this is really good to do if you do happen to have a lot of employees. It's good to keep up on this because we do charge per month for the number of employees that you have listed in your account. So if you do happen to have any temporary employees or employees that are no longer with you, make sure you definitely come through here and remove them. And then maybe an employee was temporary or seasonal and they happen to come back and you want to go ahead and restore their profile. We have our restore button right here. Simply click on this. And then on this restore button, we have another restore button right here as well. So again, it's going to have a little garbage can, if you will. So go ahead and click on the restore, and we can see that they've been placed back onto our employee list. A very common question that we do get asked a lot is if I do happen to maybe delete an employee, is it going to remove their time cards? And the answer to that is no. And I'll go ahead and I'll show that to you right now. So I'm going to go ahead and remove my test employee and then my Bryn H employee as well. Now that I've removed them, I'm going to go ahead and go to my time cards icon right here. And I can see that my test employee and Bryn H employee time cards are still visible. All right, so I think that just about wraps it up with everything that we wanted to cover today. So now that we've kind of wrapped this up, if you haven't already filled out some of those polls or used that chat section to ask any of your questions, please feel free to ask your questions now. I'll be more than happy to do our Q&A and kind of answer some of those for you. And also, we want to know what you would like to see next. Whatever we have going on, if there's a specific feature, maybe that be PTO, or maybe it's our job and project costing, we can definitely do a webinar on that. So just go ahead, fill that little pop-up out, and then we'll be sure to be able to get that done for you guys. All right, so we're going to go ahead and look and see if we have any Q&As come through for right now. Thank you. All right. Ooh. Got some great questions in here. Okay.
How about a quick recap on when the admin is also punching?
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let me go
Thanks,
ahead.
Mark.
So again, what I had discussed earlier, little tip and trick for your admins who are employees as well, who need to be able to punch. So I have here in my employee profile, let's go ahead and restore that employee. So again, we're looking at my Bryn OnTheClock employee, so that is my email. So that's the same email that I have associated with my admin account. So if I go ahead and go to settings and pull up administrators, I can see under Bryn that the email right here is correct. So again, now that this has been verified that these are the correct emails, what I'm going to do right here in the top right hand corner, click on this drop down menu, and I can see that I have a clock in/out option. So if I actually just click on this, what's going to happen is it's going to pull up the punch page for me, like I would like a regular employee. So this helps, mitigate that going back and forth of logging in and out between the different account types that you might have. And then you can just simply, once you've punched in, go ahead, OK. And then you can just simply navigate back to the other tab that we had for your admin account. And then you can continue with your admin or manager responsibilities or duties that you may have had. Great question. Thank you.
We have a question from Sandy. She just would like to know, what's that main difference between that admin and manager setup, Bryn?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the way I like to explain it to a lot of our customers is that if you have someone who you want to have access to billing information, and maybe just, again, maybe access to our settings icon up here with a lot of these different setting options, again, mostly billing, you're going to want them to be an administrator. If you really just want someone to have access to employee accounts and just kind of managing the employees, that's when a manager account would be the best fit for that. And actually a really handy tool with our manager accounts is our manager accounts allow you to restrict access to certain things. So for example, you can assign managers to a specific employee and you can give them limited access to time cards. So maybe you don't want them editing time cards, but you want them to at least review them. So you can actually come in here and change their permission levels from full to read only. Or maybe you wanted to give them read only, but have access to all the employees. So this gives you that flexibility. And then as an administrator, you would have access to everything in the account. So I hope that makes sense.
Great. That was perfect. Bryn, did that help, Sandy? Awesome.
Yes, perfect. Thank you.
Any other questions we can assist with today? Just as a reminder, you will get a replay of this video. So this will come through to everybody. You'll be able to rewatch this as many times as you need. You can always contact us at support@ontheclock.com and submit tickets, and we're happy to answer there. You can also live chat with us.
We have a little live chat window here, and maybe if it's outside of business hours, up here we have our question mark for help support. So you can just click on this. We have our phone number listed, and then we also have under contact us. You can go ahead and fill this out with your question, and then we'll go ahead and respond to you. If it's over the weekend, we'll get back to you on Monday. And then if it's, maybe after hours on a weekday, we'll get back to you the very next day.
Yeah, lots of ways to reach out to us.
Yes.
So that we can get you the best help.
And if you want to text with us as well, we have our text phone number listed here too.
Well, if there's no more questions, we will go ahead and conclude this webinar. We're so happy that everybody joined us today. As always, if you need anything, support@ontheclock.com. And we look forward to doing the next one.
All right. Thank you so much, guys, for joining. Pleasure having you guys, and thanks for bearing with us. I know our lights went out a couple times. What can you do? All right. Well, thanks again, everyone. Have a wonderful weekend.
Bye.